All right, good morning. We are here for the third installment of the Crazyhouse World Championship final between Jasugi99 and catask. Catask has a phenomenal lead, 30 games to 10. So he only needs half a point out of the next 20 games to claim the championship. To add a bit of fun, today we've added another $100 to the prize pool, where each game will also attract another $5 bounty, just to make things interesting, have something to play for. I'm joined here again by a fantastic commentary team. Welcome Clearcast, Yasser and Mugwort down the left side, commentators from last year, and our two new commentators from Sweden, Gneas and Zixon on the right. Each of these players have either been previous candidates, Yasser being Yasser, and Gneas being the main commentator this year for all of our candidates' matches. So welcome, guys. Good to
Thank
have
you,
you again.
Justin. Thank you. Pleasure to be with you all.
Likewise.
Yeah. Well, we'll have the game start in just a moment. I assume they're just giving us a bit of time. You can see the scoreline at the bottom here. Yeah, Catask won 16 games to 4 in the last section of 20. So going more than 10 in a row. So here we go.
Yeah.
We've got Queen takes d4. Now, who was it? Was Clearcast? It
Was
was you that made this
Clearcast
comment,
hoping for
hoping
this
for this
Yeah,
opening.
exactly.
rather
Yeah.
sharp line?
And
But
I was
okay,
the one
Catask
saying,
probably watched the stream, so came prepared maybe.
and I was the one saying, give me the pawns.
Yeah, Queen takes b2 is interesting, and then knight b5. It's good for white, so you have to play pawn a3.
Yeah. And to stop d-line d7 threat. Although that wasn't absolutely forced, was it? Or could he have played knight f6 instead of d6 just to stop d7? I mean, it's a temporary thing. I no question about it. That
Maybe a3 comes, and then knight b5, and you have to close the d5 anyway.
Yeah. Oh no, there's no question about that. I just love having things in hand as opposed to and development too. What do we got here, guys? Is this a theoretical argument or is this relatively unexplored?
I would feel like
Looking at the clocks,
Katas knows where he
Yeah,
is.
yeah. That is a point.
I'm not sure anyone else knows
I don't think
whether
we're far beyond the realms of theory, but I don't know the exact position.
Here, I'm just fearful of the move knight b5, and I think I would just stop it actually and play the move a6. I don't like wasting a whole tempo, but for the moment, that's he didn't. He's not worried about it.
Bishop b5 and pawn d6 is very tempting.
Again, sorry, bishop b5.
Bishop 5 and then pawn at e6 is very tempting.
He doesn't.
Do you
have
mean
a pawn,
sack the
does he?
bishop?
Oh, he doesn't have a pawn. Yeah, my bad.
Okay.
You have to sack the bishop first. Yeah.
Well, I hope Jasugi doesn't think he has a pawn in hand.
Oh, that was a surprise move for me.
So I just have to take a moment to introduce our seventh commentator today. This is my son Spencer. He decided he wouldn't sleep today, so that's why you'll see me on mute sometimes, just keeping the background noise out.
I was about to say, the more the merrier. 7 is a good number.
Didn't seem like a terrible idea to trade bishops and put it back on e6.
Right, Neil. That was a real surprise that he didn't take it. Actually, just on d7. And now black has this opportunity, pawn to c6. it's going to be very hard for white, pardon me, to hack his way through these defenses.
Yeah, I think if you're white here, what you want to do is try to open up the position really quickly, and catask has deliberately controlled the trades so that there's not much, which is why bishop takes d7 looked like an opportunity before.
Agreed.
Or else black will be a couple pawns up, and
very solid position too. Here
Looks
I'm
like
thinking
Jasugi's setting up
E7,
knight cb5.
Knight on c3 to b5. Aha.
Yeah, nice one. That's a real threat.
Whoa. h5. I was definitely looking at e5 myself just to give the king a little breathing room, but still knight cb5 would have been
how good is knight cb5? Queen takes b5, and then you take another piece, and all you have is a queen, and black has
two pieces.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah, true. And again, for that reason, I was thinking that I like that stuff with the two pieces. I mean, with the pawn on e5. Neither player seems to be afraid of this move, knight b5. Okay, takes. Also,
So-
Justin, I
some-
don't know if you. Sorry.
Yeah, I was about to say straight and pawn at g5 or bishop g5 makes sense, but I don't know about this rook h5 move.
Agreed. I'm not sure about rook h5 either. Earlier, Justin, there was also an opportunity maybe for black to play queen takes a4, knight takes d5. In that case, sacrificing a queen only for a bishop and a few pawns. But I was thinking that black might be able to go g3 as well. So without the move rook h5, if we were to go, he played g3.
Okay, back when there was a white pawn on d5.
Yes,
Yeah.
precisely. You go queen
possibly.
takes a4, knight takes d5. Your queen side's super safe and solid. And then you, I see. I feel a knight f6 smothered mate coming. Careful.
Yeah, g takes f2, bishop takes f2, pawn at g3. Not so tempting.
Yeah, very tempting. Not so good, but very tempting. Right.
And the knight d5 ideas are also there.
Precisely, knight d5. I like it as well. Once again, we see the clock being a crucial factor here. Early.
Well, time for catask.
It's getting very, pardon me, very serious suddenly. Okay, he's done his best to clog up the middle.
So this is
now
what
knight d5 is nice, yeah, because pawn takes
Wow.
knight is d7.
Whoa. The knight on d8. Quite the defender.
Or maybe he had queen at g8 there instead of bishop f4. Threat was bishop, knight takes f6 and bishop h6 check. And then
Yeah,
h8.
I was looking at queen at h8 or queen at g8. That would have been
Ooh,
tough in
rook
time
takes.
travel.
I was about to say there was a knight f6 smothered mate and so many.
Oh, it's close. It's not mate though.
Rook takes e6, not mate.
Oh,
There's a take on f2. Oh my gosh.
He had knight at f3 check before
As
taking
well.
on
Yeah.
f2.
This just made soon. Knight c1.
So quick.
yeah,
Knight
king
c1.
c4, king c4, bishop takes
Queen
d5.
c2.
Queen c5, rook is pinned.
Queen c2.
Oh, queen c5. Yes. All right. Well, catask is officially the Crazyhouse World Champion for
Our
2021
congratulations.
with that winning 31 to 10.
Oof.
So from here, we'll just see if Jasugi just has some freedom to play. So Again, there's $5 per game, which has been added in for these last 20 games. Congratulations to catask.
I think this is our earliest winner ever. No, I mean at this stage of a World Championship match. I'll rely upon you, Justin, or Crazyhouse historian to confirm.
I mean, it's usually been a very close margin. Maybe in the last 5 games it's been determined. So never before with a margin like this. It's very impressive.
And was it always 60 games all the way back to 2017?
Yeah, I believe it's always been 60 games. Yeah.
Impressive. How about Bishop G5 here, guys? Is that a decent turn, Bishop G5? The idea is that if you take twice on C3, I'll take on D8, I'll recapture on C3. And because of the mate on E7, the rook on A1 isn't hanging. He didn't go for it. He just played H6. Not bad. It also looks very, very strong.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's if Bishop D2 is too passive or if Bishop G5 is acceptable in this line.
Whoa, on E3. That's a surprise.
Has anyone seen this position before here?
No, I haven't.
Don't know what the idea is after F takes E3. What's the idea?
After Bishop G5 as well, there was pawn at D3 ideas. It's very sharp.
Yeah,
By
I
the way,
agree.
black has to also watch out for H takes G7, Queen takes D5, knight at F6.
Precisely. I was thinking the same. H takes G7.
Many lines black can't afford to give away a knight for F6 after H takes G7.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah.
So,
F2 takes E3. A little surprise for me. I think I'm quite sure I would have played Bishop takes E3 in that position just to trade off the bishop for the knight. I was thinking that the knight was the more dangerous piece. This looks good for white as well. His attack on the king side is very strong.
At F2, and then you can take bishop takes E5 in some lines.
Aha.
Because
So
the knight has to defend.
Yeah. And you have to defend E1. So F2 check, King E1, Bishop E5, Bishop B5 check. Something blocks. And then we take on E5 again.
And then we take, yeah.
Okay, we're seeing it. Bishop to B5 check. I reckon. To defend E1. And prepare knight takes E5. Didn't do it.
Well, now you can play knight C6 if you really want, but
and we take
I think H takes G7 is very strong, so you have to do something about that.
If we go queen to E6, then we can drop a knight on G5 or C5 or bishop C4, pawn to D5. So
yeah.
Also looking at queen at D6, threatening cheapo.
Ooh, nice. Queen to D6 with a
but
threat
knight
of
at B5 is a good response.
Yeah, defends knight C1, smothered mate. Ah, he did it directly. He didn't drop a knight on D5. Some reason I was expecting that.
Yeah, now queen takes H7. Rook takes G7. Maybe just take the bishop.
Knight D5, bishop D5, and then knight D5 looks very strong.
Yeah, I was about to say no takers for bishop B5 check and queen takes E5. You just covered E1 with the tempo.
Catask is a taker, so
he did. He said, "Good catch."
That's all that matters, huh?
Big threat of knight f6 check in the position for white. Whoa, that happened very quickly. And
Yeah,
he's
if you
back.
take the knight, there was knight at f6,
Uh-huh.
winning everything.
Whoa.
Well, that was nice from catask at the end. He just said, well, I'm consolidating and I'm a piece up and there's holes. He didn't take any
Right.
risks.
Right. This time, the previous game, it had been queen d2, rook d1. No, it had been a3.
Pawn at
Excuse me.
a3 last time. Yeah.
Yes.
And now white should play a3. Probably.
Just to stop these threats. Yeah.
Yeah, queen takes b2, knight b5. And then pawn at d2, that's the theoretical line. Knight d5, I'm not sure. I think catask prepared this. I always see
It's
pawn
it is
d2
the
here.
computer's first choice in this position. So yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So the Yasugi should know it because that's the top choice for the engine in this position.
Right. And I presume the follow-up is a6, or I'm afraid of knight c7 and bishop f7.
Or just ace, or just bishop takes d5, bishop takes f7.
Exactly. Thank you. Much improved.
That's why knight takes
seem
d3,
to-
there's
I-
knight
I-
takes c7. That's good to note.
Yeah.
So that's why at d2
Whoa.
was sometimes played, or this.
Whoa.
Exactly.
Really?
I
How
thought pawn
could
at
that be a good
d4
move?
was.
I think e6 in the opening and bishop d6 is a better defense than knight f6, knight d5. If we have the exact same position, but you replace those moves with e6, bishop d6.
Yeah. I can't believe that d3 is a good move for black there. That just strikes me as so wrong. If you put a pawn on e2 now, queen takes d3, and the position is overwhelming for white. It's not even to discuss. So what was d3? Was that a mouse slip? Maybe.
No, that looks quite deliberate. Because
Really?
if any capture on d3, black was probably made some progress. If c takes d3, there was pawn at c2. If bishop takes d3, you've effectively defended your knight on d5, and queen takes d3 had queen takes a1. So I think castles is a strong move here. Pawn at e2, as you said, queen takes d3. If e takes f1, rook takes f1. White's happy to give away that rook, has no problems on the king side, and
Exactly.
there's then a queen defending b5 as well, or attacking d5. So this is a position Jasugi would love, actually. He's way up on the clock.
Yeah, but in this, okay, d3 castles though, Justin. What does black do for a move here? I mean, this looks terrible to my eyes. I'm looking for a move, and then, well, okay, there's one, I guess. The choices didn't appeal. This is quite a conception.
So is pawn at h3? This is a question: is can white get away with king h1 or not? So pawn at g2, knight df4. You would probably take that knight, and then
Right.
back
King
up to
G3,
g1.
Ooh. I was going to be aggressive and come up the board, but okay.
I mean, white here is
So-
basically trying to say you don't have enough to mate, and then the moment you don't have enough, d7, c6 will be wide open.
Right. So what Justin is saying to our audience is a move like bishop g2. At the end of the day, you have to be careful that a pawn doesn't land on d7 with check, and white with a queen in hand will checkmate. So how old is little one now, Justin?
He just turned 2.5 a few days ago.
2.5. My
Yeah,
goodness.
so life's
Wow.
life's gradually getting better. Gradually.
That's a bad sign. I don't. And you have to go back with the bishop like that, bishop d7. That means that you've really come empty-handed now.
Yeah, there was that incredible game in part 2 of the series where Qatar sacked a queen. He had a piece for it. It looked terrible, and we said, "Oh, this is going to be demoralizing if Jasugi loses," and he lost anyway.
Oh, well, looks terrible.
Yeah, very clean from
Yeah, good
Jasugi.
defense. Good
Oh,
defense.
finally, the bleeding stopped. That was a long number of losses in a row.
I remember the American tennis player Vitas Gerlaitis
Yes.
at a press conference. He'd been beaten 16 times in a row by Jimmy Connors, and finally he won a game. And at the press conference, he said something like, "And let this be a lesson to you all: nobody beats Vitas Gerlaitis 17 times in a row." So,
I met Vitas as well as Guillermo Villas. He was an Argentine player. And the strangest thing about Guillermo is he looked deformed. His tennis arm, if you will, was literally twice the size of his regular arm. He had just this monstrously developed arm, and then just this normal guy over here. Very unusual. We, as you said, Justin, now these guys, without the World Championship anymore, already been decided, they can play freely. We're seeing a little bit more.
Yeah,
and style of
and
play.
Jasugi, when he's playing freely, there's some great talent that can come out of that. So this, yeah, what's going on here? We have to.
I love white for the moment, at least.
White is so well coordinated here.
Yeah, looking good, but okay, the bishop on c6 at least.
So bishop b4 check. How do we respond to that? Because that looks like what Jasugi would be considering.
We'll drop a pawn on c3. I was thinking bishop b4 check, pawn to c3, castles, queen takes d8, rook takes d8, and I was thinking there's a pawn to f7, and white, keeps feeding the queen on g8, right? So you can't castle after bishop b4.
You could also drop the pawn on f7 right after black castles. So castle and pawn f7 also.
It would maybe even stronger. Thank you, Andre. Yes. Yes. So
actually, there was a guy who beat Vitas Gerlaitis more than 17 times. 18.
Bjorn Borg did?
Yeah.
Oh. Oh.
Okay, so Jasugi can say no one is, can beat me 15 times in a row. And,
right. Right.
Sounds like
be a lesson.
Sounds like a lot of bad luck to play in a knockout to be paired against the same player that many times.
Ooh, I'm not a fan of this last move, bishop c5. Oof, that feels like it's all wrong. I would take on d8 and put the queen back on d2 with check, protecting f2, so that I could follow it up with knight f7 check and just take the rook. I'm greedy that way.
No arguments there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess black could maybe play king e8 against that to step out of that fork.
Okay.
That's the only possible save.
And then you just rip g7 and knight f6 coming.
Correct.
Yeah, pretty solid there.
Yeah. Or knight h6 with the idea of plomping on f7. Clunk. And is the 3+2 time control always been the case for these World Championships, Justin?
In the very first year, it was just 3+0, and then it moved to 3+2 for 1 year. And 1 year we didn't have a 3+2; we had a 1+0, and then the last year and this year we've stuck with 3+2. But it seems, it seems like it's been a popular time control and a bit of increment, but also not stretching the matches out too long either. It's been nice. So here, if bishop at b4, you can pawn at c3, bishop takes c5, queen takes d8, king takes d8, queen at f6 is the point here probably.
In 1992, I had visited the island of Sveti Stefan for the rematch between Boris Baski and Bobby Fischer, where Bobby Fischer introduced the Fischer chess clock. And I spent an afternoon with Bobby, and I was playing Blitz with Eugene Torre and Svetozar Gligorich and a grandmaster from Montenegro. And we were trying all kinds of different time controls on Bobby's new invention, the Fischer timer, he called it. And after the entire afternoon and much of the early evening, we came to 3+2 as the best time control.
Ah, okay. Very nice.
Yeah, exactly. And Bobby said, like after, like we had reached that conclusion, he said, yeah, me too. I mean, he had been the one who had invented the clock, but he came back with the same idea that it should be 3 and 2. What do we have here? Knight takes e6 and knight g7. No, maybe that's, maybe knight takes e6, knight takes d4, knight in hand to g7 check.
And is that's to win the queen with check?
Yeah, you can force the king to f7.
So f7, king f7. So let's just go knight takes e6, knight takes d4, knight at g7. Oh, he's changed the order.
Yeah, he sure did. It's like shocking. Like, what? Oh, he missed. No, he still has knight f6 check in his hand. Whoa, what is going on here? 13 seconds to 4 seconds.
King looks quite safe on f7 after knight f6 check.
It surely does, yeah. Now he's covered f6. Oh.
Yeah, Jasugi.
Nice
Jasugi dangerous here.
I think. And now it's all black suddenly. Queen. Oh, very nice play by Jasugi here. Oops. Queen takes b5. No.
Long guesses. Okay, this should be Jasugi's game now.
Yeah, that knight on f5 stopping knight e7 was like perfect.
Probably a bit traumatized by knight e7 in the previous game from day two.
Right. Yeah, this is now overkill. Rook takes. Pawn to b2 is his idea.
Yeah, 93 mates.
93 mates.
Makes room for his king.
But now just at e2 probably.
Pawn at e2, king takes e2 forced. Oh, nice. Queen at g4.
You have to drop something on f3. H1
is queen at g4. Nice check. Resource there. Couldn't block on e2, so knight f3.
Well, that was something. I think knight g7 check there was wrong. I think that was a missed opportunity for knight e6 there.
Yeah, hard to say, because even if you won the queen with check after king f7, so the knight on d4 was covering e6, so it's not a decisive mate right away.
Okay, Sure
So,
felt good though.
yeah, it sure looks good. But I think knight at g7 is also okay, but I was just impressed. Jasugi had like, what, 5 seconds? He was way down on time, and he still came up with a
Exactly.
defense.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed
Did
the
you
move
play
order
Bobby?
here.
Did you play Bobby when he played his
No, we just
championship match?
we analyzed together,
Okay.
most especially his game 11 brilliancy that he won. That was the wing gambit sacrifice of a pawn in the Rossalimo. And one of the things that was absolutely fantastic, I mean, it was absolutely fantastic for me. I, of course, grew up as a kind of a hero worshiping of Bobby Fischer. I had never met him before. That was my very first meeting with Bobby. And I really have been fortunate. I've analyzed with world champions like Kasparov and Karpov and Tal and Smyslov, Kramnik, Anand, many world champions, and they're all very special. They have an approach to chess that is remarkable, and they have a very sharp tactical awareness. I mean, literally, they're gifted. They do what I call chunking. You and I may look at a move. I go here, you go there. I go here, you go there. They look and they go, okay, this, and he wins. Kind of went, well, how did you calculate that? And Bobby had that ability. And it was one moment, it was really fantastic moment, actually. We had refuted Bobby's brilliancy, essentially. And he was very upset. He was basically sore. Oh, you guys are idiots. There's no way I was winning. Give me the position back. And we had been analyzing for about an hour. And he just like, you guys are dead. You're dead. You're dead. I can't believe this. Like, there's no justice in life. And he's crying. Mm-hmm. And we're all very happy with ourselves. We're mocking him. And Bobby says, okay. Here it is. And he goes queen h8 in an analysis to a1. Queen comes back from h8 to a1. And he starts chortling. Ha, ha, ha. You guys are dead. You're dead. And he was right. And it was like, I mean, I'm about to curse, but how did he do that? How did he just know that was a good position for him? And he basically killed 4 grandmasters with one move. By the way, g5 there? What the heck is g5?
Seems very slow for black, I think.
Yeah, where did that come from? I was expecting something like, I don't know, pawn to c4 or trying to win the piece back on a good day, but g5? Does he want g4 and f3 one day? Well, he might get it. He might get it.
Your story sort of reminds me of a famous Swedish player you're very familiar with, Ulf Andersson.
Yes.
He's actually from he was born in my hometown, Västerås. And okay. I remember watching Ulf. What happened in the end?
He resigned.
That's resigned.
Resigned. Oh, he had a horrible position.
Definitely.
He was playing for a Swedish team, and they were playing the European team championships, and they're playing a Russian team. And it was a really close match, and Ulf at one point sacrificed the piece for 3 pawns in front of the opponent's king, and that was very unusual for Ulf. But then he just made it perpetual.
Yes, excellent.
After the game, they lost the match very narrowly, and if Ulf had won, they would have gone through to the next round. So they started analyzing, and Lars Karlsson, I don't know if you're familiar.
I know him very well. What did we call him? Not Lars Karlsson. We had Lasky. No, okay, sorry. Please continue. I'll remember our nickname.
A fairly strong Swedish player.
Grandmaster.
He and a bunch of others started analyzing the game, and they were mocking Ulf, and they were playing Space Invaders. They just pulled back the queen and started running the pawns up the board, and every line they analyzed, they were completely crushing his opponent.
Yes.
So I couldn't help but finding Ulf, and Ulf, can you please show them what you were thinking here? Why didn't you play on? And he's such a modest guy, and he just said, well, I put my pieces here and here and here, and there's no way I can win this game. No lines, no anything. And they couldn't find anything. So he did there. Yeah, it took him 5 seconds to just demolish their 2 hours work of analyzing the position. I put my pieces here and here and here, and I can win.
Exactly. Well, I had so many stories like that, a kind of epiphany with Ulf, because first of all, there was a international master from India, and his name was Ravi Kumar, and Ravi played in my World Junior Championships. And he told me, I'm going to write a book of Ulf Andersson's decisive victories. And I said, oh, Ravi, please don't. He said, well, why not? I said, well, first of all, it would be a very slim volume. And secondly, I would be featured in half the games. In those days, I really liked the dragon, Sicilian as black. Yeah, give me a dragon. That was fun. And I had worked with Ulf. He had been my second in the candidates in Montpellier. And I had worked with Ulf as he had also been a second for Jan Timman, as was I in the 1993 World Championship match, in Timman's match against Karpov. As I said, so Ulf, what's wrong with the dragon? Why don't you play the dragon? And he didn't give me a variation, Andre, just like you. He didn't give you any lines or anything. He said, the D5 square is too weak.
Yeah, I know that one. Look at the D5 square.
There are tactics galore, hundreds of variations. The D5 square is too weak. It was pretty funny. Uh-oh. Well, there's going to be a guest on C7 soon, isn't it? Bishop takes F5. We drop a knight in on C7. Aren't we happy?
King seems okay on F8 for the moment.
Okay, so
trades are low.
Whoa.
Yeah, this forces knight takes E7, and take your pick which one.
I've got 3.
Yeah, exactly.
3 to choose from.
Wow, Jasugi won a third game while I was away.
Yes, we're making the comment there, Justin, that you seem to be bad luck.
Okay, nice.
Go away more often, huh?
Yeah, exactly. It would have been a very competitive match, except for one small detail.
Is pawn F3 a way to speed up the black attack here?
I was thinking queen B6 now, and controls a lot of squares. You have pawn at H3 almost already.
Yeah, I like the pawn to F3 idea very much. Wow. This looks like a desperate attempt now by White. This pawn to F6. So we take on D3.
Yeah, pawn at f3 or bishop at e4 is still very strong here.
But now
Yeah,
Mike
but
has
queen
a-
at e8 is okay. This is nice because if he takes twice, you have a rook to put on f8. So queen at e8 isn't quite as devastating. That's good.
Right. Exactly. Bishop to h. No.
Bishop to h4, he can take.
Precisely. But this was nice. Bishop to c5 check. I like that. You're keeping your king well defended. Bishop.
Oh, knight h3, mate one. Yeah. Okay.
Oof.
It's not just a fork. It's also a mate.
Mate on g2. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say 2 games ago the move order was different. E4, E5. So obviously this line is not possible.
Oh, people in the chat are telling us the score between Yasser and Ulf.
Yes, it's not been pretty.
8-2 without draws.
Yeah, well, we've had a couple of draws. We've played in tournaments without the, let's say, before the databases and computer databases and things. So we've actually had a few draws in Blitz and tournaments and stuff. But I remember my first meeting with Ulf, it was like in a Hastings. And it was like, the tournament was like a sick ward at the end of the event because everybody who goes to Hastings gets ill. It's like a force majeure. If you're going to go to Hastings in winter, you're catching a cold or a flu. And Ulf was suffering with Lourdes. Lourdes was his wife from Cuba. And I was looking at this poor Cubana lady and saying, what are you doing in this cold northern climate? You know, you weren't made for this weather. She said, neither was you. I like Lourdes. She was, I think Lourdes, they divorced, a pity. But I think Lourdes still lives in Sweden, if I'm not mistaken, in Stockholm.
Yeah, she does. I think she lives in Stockholm, and I think somehow she actually takes care of Ulf somehow. Maybe his pays his bills or something. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Oh, well. Just somehow, yeah, just taking care of his.
Still have some contact.
Excellent. Queen takes d5. That looks very strong to my eyes. You're threatening everything. C7 mate, F7 mate. Well, actually, F7.
It is surprising that he repeats this line. I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say catask. Like, yeah, I was very surprised he went into that line again.
It's a good line for black. Pawn at d3 is the bad move. E6 is the main move there, and black is maybe not okay, but definitely fighting. It's not a bad line at all. But the pawn at d3 is probably not strong enough.
Yeah, the pawn on d3 felt to me the first time I saw it as terrible. And well, I believe in making the same mistake at least twice. That way I can confirm to myself it was a mistake in the first place. The first time I saw the pawn on d3, I thought that was an error. The second time was proof, all the proof we needed.
But it seems like he knows it's okay, but maybe, yeah, like you said, Zixon, is the pawn at d3 maybe is not the move. But still sticking with the faith that the opening itself is okay.
Yeah, it's a bit tricky like that. You know this position is okay, and then you try to, you have after a game you can think for a bit for next game, like what was my actual response there, and then maybe he thought that pawn at d3 was still the response, but that's the wrong move. E6. There's 2 moves in that position. I don't remember the other one, but E6 is the first one. But it's if you don't know that theory and know the rest, it's a very difficult position to play with black. So
absolutely,
I'm sure he will avoid it now. But the position before pawn at d3 is fine for black.
Yeah, it's one of those lines where if you don't know it, you can find yourself in trouble very quickly. Where there's
Mhm.
quite a few only moves that are critical. And myself personally, I would avoid those sorts of situations where possible at this level. Um, okay,
This
well,
feels terrible for black. Just terrible. Maybe I overestimate, but I think just your take on D7, you put a pawn on F6, and the position just feels like black can't survive.
I agree.
Would you take on F7, maybe?
Yeah,
As a
even.
prelude? Now. Sorry. Wow.
yeah,
This
actually,
is a position where a lot of moves are very strong for white.
pawn at f5 or pawn at h5 was actually what I expected from catask. I don't think catask would have considered bishop takes d7 because in his nature he would just keep it there for defense. And same with the rook on f1. Just try to make gradual progress where you can't be worse. That seems to be his style.
And the rook takes F7, Justin, what Andre suggested. That
Yeah,
also
I think you
looked
have to play
promising.
bishop takes f7. If pawn at g7, you've got to let the king try to defend itself and run. But knight at f2 is a saving grace possibly, where at least black has a threat, even though he's got a naked king.
By the way, bishop to g7 there looked like mate.
Bishop,
Last turn,
bishop
not
to
knight
g7.
to f5, but just bishop to g7.
King g8 is, and you survived, right?
Sorry?
For a moment.
I have a rook in the hand.
No, you don't.
Yes.
Well,
Oh,
I'll take the rook. I'll go bishop to g7.
Partner,
You'll take the.
No, just king g8 immediately.
Oh, well, then I'll take the knight.
then you can take the knight on e5 and rook takes h6 was one continuation. I think
Certainly
either
look grim for black, but the same could be said for this position. So.
yeah, I think either is okay. So to have to be careful here. Knight takes f6, queen takes f6.
And there's a f2.
And there's f2 hanging. So
of course, bishop at g1.
very
bishop
catask.
to g1.
Yeah.
Wow. That was a surprise for sure, for me at least. I mean, wow, bishop to g1.
Catask likes his safety. His say I have a fortress and
what are you gonna do about
what are you gonna do about it? And Jasugi's like, no, I'm gonna have that f2 square. I will sacrifice the queen for it.
So rook at f5 for more defenders on f2 then, or just block off like that?
I thought rook at f5. I thought we would play actually. Yeah, but maybe queen takes h6. Maybe he wants e5 with check. I'm not sure.
Queen takes d5.
But this isn't looking.
Oh.
Takes g3 now.
Queen takes g3. You might be able to get away with recapturing it.
Yeah, or just knight takes h6.
Yeah, you can ignore it too.
Maybe. Yeah.
I don't see a lot of options here. Well,
yeah, bishop at g7 was one.
Queen takes d5 is coming for white.
Yeah,
and that's the end of that game.
There was just an inability for black to make any counterattack with a sudden mate threat, given how much catask can put around the king.
Right. Well, one of the things that I think a lot of people around the world comment upon as far as the classical chess is concerned is the very, very large number of draws, especially, for example, the criticism that came after the 2018 World Championship match in London, where all the games were drawn in the classical portion. And yet here we are calling a World Championship chess variant, Crazyhouse, did we see a draw? Maybe one?
But yet, no.
Don't think so. No.
No. So
We have in the
single
candidates.
game-
We have in the candidates, but not this final. Yeah.
So every single game has been decisive, and yet, as far as I'm aware, Crazyhouse doesn't have an over-the-board tournament to its credit. Is that right, Justin?
No, there's no over the board. It's just so much easier to play on a computer. But
True.
but you do have yeah. There's I was given a very nice set, and in fact on my Twitch channel there's a little promotion box for TM Cromwell. They just did like flat pieces, so like discs, if you like, which you can
Right. And
flip, and everyone can be white or black.
Right. I have them.
You have them. Okay, very nice.
I have a set that that would be the set I would play with.
Yeah, absolutely.
For an over-the-board tournament.
And they're very nicely crafted. The pieces. But yeah, I think, in a time scramble you can just see. Can you imagine a time scramble with the real pieces and maintaining the legitimacy of which one is flipped the right way?
Yeah, that might not be the most beautiful moment.
Yeah, when I play with some of my club mates, we usually do go 3 or 5 seconds even increment minimum, just to
right. Avoid.
make sure the pieces are traded
Right.
correctly.
Exactly.
I'm reminded of a weekender chess tournament time scramble I once saw between, I think, like two fairly large men, and it got really intense. And this was like, guillotine finish, no increment, until literally, I think there was not a single piece left on the board, and because they had just smashed everything, and then these two guys just look at the arbiter and then blame each other for knocking over all the pieces.
Do something. Nice. By the way, this game kind of got away from us. What the heck is going on here? I'm assuming black has made it, but I won't absolutely stake a claim to that.
Did the king have to go to f2, or there other options?
Yeah.
What did black have in hand?
I think it was because the queen trade was imminent. Maybe f2. The king had to go to f2.
E1, yeah.
Because
After queen takes d1, knight takes e7.
Or knight at e7.
e5 doesn't really matter because you can play knight at e7. Maybe it does matter because you have to waste the knight afterwards.
Yeah, I guess the point is the king can be forced onto the a7 g1 diagonal. So there's always a bishop c5 check.
Yeah.
Issue, yeah.
But this pawn at d4 is causing Jasugi some headaches.
Right.
I was thinking king g3 here. Maybe a bit crazy.
Right. No, I like it because if you take the bishop, you take the queen, and then
yeah, that's a
it on
brilliant
H8.
move, king g3 actually.
I like it. King G3.
I couldn't
doesn't
find
get made
a
it
better-
is brilliant.
Yes.
That was
I think
venomous from Fix. He had a saying. It's probably been said before, but I remember him saying that the Sicilian is a wonderful opening. The only problem is black sometimes gets checkmated.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, he
Oh,
played
look at this.
He did
King
play it.
G3s.
He did play.
So we take the bishop, you take the queen, and we put the bishop on f4, and the king goes to h4. Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Fun
And
times.
Black is just short by a pawn.
Yeah, but if you take down bishop takes h6 in that position.
But
But
Aren't you
be a
okay?
queen on d8. There'll be a queen on d8,
Yeah.
right?
So,
So knight takes h6.
Yeah, knight takes
yeah,
h-
king h8.
knight takes f7.
Knight takes
Knight
f7
takes
wins.
f7.
Yeah, the pin rook is pinned. All right, nice.
Exactly. The rook is pinned. 29 seconds. Catask is really King
Wow.
G3
King
is
G3
kind of like
is.
tasered him
No,
for a
but
moment.
I mean, before that, pawn at d4 was a brilliant move in that it
It
for
really
just a
was.
split second, blocked off the queen trade, but made it that the next move with d takes c3 or d takes c3
Here
if
we
the bishop
go.
moved, then okay.
Ooh. Here we go. What?
Can you go really berserk and take the knight on h6? Bishop takes, knight takes, pawn takes.
Bishop.
But this is easy, mate. No, it's not. Okay.
Queen H8.
Maybe bishop takes
No,
f7 at
bishop
the end of it.
H6. Bishop H6 is protecting H6 clear cost.
Yeah, but
You can take
Queen
the
H8.
queen.
I was, and no, never mind. I was thinking knight check somewhere.
But bishop takes f7 must be mating here.
I think bishop
mean,
takes
I can't
f7 was
imagine.
good enough. I think.
Yeah.
I think bishop takes f7, pawn at e6, knight takes g7, queen at e6 mate.
Yes.
Or if he goes to f7,
Knight takes g7
it's
here. It looks.
yeah, it's mate. It's forced mate. If he goes to then f8, you just back out.
Yep.
No.
No, then h6 is bishop takes h. I think you just
Yeah, but then pawn at
you
e7.
you can take
So, yeah,
f6 or okay, pawn at e7. Nice.
Yeah.
So knight takes g7, king f7, queen at e6, king f8, knight f5, bishop takes h6,
yeah, but there's
pawn
king
at
g6,
e7.
so it's not. We have to. Yeah, then pawn at h5 and knight at f5 because the knight is pinned. So pawn at h5 is mate after.
King g6, pawn at h5, king takes h.
But this is okay,
no, this is
mate,
also
yeah.
mate, knight at f7. Wow, Jasugi.
F7.
Yeah, he's up 6-3 this leg.
King G3 was a boss response to pawn to D4.
Yeah.
That was
well spotted, Clearcast. King
Exactly.
G3. King G3.
yeah.
I couldn't find a good move for white until you mentioned King G3. That's very nice.
I like this choice by Jasugi, by the way. He's getting crushed in the, let's say, traditional d4, d5 lines.
Mm-hmm.
So just play b6, bishop b7, knight f8 even. Just no trades. Maybe play knight e4 here, but it's not necessary.
Yeah, just
One
to
of
stop e4 could be an idea, not e4. Sorry, Yasa, go ahead.
No, not at all. One of the things that has really struck me is how often in so many games, I mean, so many games, the players have come down to, let's just say 20 seconds each or less. And the game has three results. That exactly in those moments, it's like catask is just a little bit faster and a little bit more aware of opportunity. That's been the difference, but it's made all the difference in the world as far as the match is concerned.
A lot of that just comes down to match fitness. I mean, Jasugi hasn't played an official match for 12 months. Catask has been playing continuously.
Yeah, I would say
great move, c6.
Yeah, if being an opponent to Jasugi99, like I would try to avoid the time scramble if I can, because I would back him and every time. So for Catask to come out and win so many games where that's usually Jasugi's forte, really says a lot.
And even though he can beat 99.9% of players in that situation, just not Catask.
Exactly. Bishop to h6 here. I would probably play queen to h4, encourage my opponent to play g5 before sacrificing my queen. But g6 that's a special move.
Okay.
That is very, very special.
So the idea being if bishop takes, g takes, king takes, and then knight takes d8 check.
Followed by bishop to b3 check or bishop c4 check, I guess.
Yeah, the light squares.
As the Swedish would say, the light fields, right?
The light fields.
Light fields. The fjords. Nice, a remarkable move, g6. That's the type of move my computer plays against me, and I get all upset.
I was thinking maybe bishop takes g5, g takes f7, and king h8 was possibly a resource there. And it's kind of weird. You're leaving your rook and queen on pre, but it actually may turn out being economical, because whichever one gets taken, you can take with the other piece.
Here it feels like there should be some smothered mate, no? Like
the knight on d7
major.
is defending the one on f6, so it's close.
Missing a major. Yeah, like knight takes d8, bishop takes g5. I want to drop a knight on f7 and what?
You can still drop a knight on f7.
Knight d5 is nice.
Yeah, this is nice, yeah. If you take, there's rook h7, that's the point.
Rook h7, yes. A beautiful, beautiful concept. Knight to d5. Okay, this for me, I got to tell you, I think catask has played this incredibly well.
Yeah, I was interested that bishop takes g5, g takes f7, king h8 idea.
Is this a perpet?
No,
This
king
is always the
h1.
question: is it? Does black has enough pawns to
Okay, so we
queen
go
at g1?
King h1, queen g1. We take.
I don't
Once
think
if
it comes to
Right,
that.
you're only getting a rook, not a queen. So as long as the rook doesn't take on g1 twice, the king should take the second time, right?
Yeah,
Right,
that's
and
the
then-
important point.
Right,
But
so no
as
draw.
black, I have cheapoed enough people here in this type of position. Catask won't fall for this, but it's important to note that you shouldn't take with the rook twice on g1. Because then there's rook h2 and knight g4, and you can play knight f2, knight g4 perpetual check.
Yeah,
And that was the perpetual I referred to. Exactly.
so king takes g1, pawn at h2, and then king back to h1.
Rook to g1.
I'm surprised Catask is spending the time on this one. So
There's
if-
no time for a quiet move because white is threatening rook at g8. I assume that mates.
Yeah. Rook h7.
yeah, rook at g8 is the mate threat now. So king takes g1, pawn at h2, king h1, rook at g1, then king takes h2.
Exactly.
And then knight at g4, h takes g4, knight takes g4, king takes g1, pawn at h2,
Maybe
king
he's
f1.
scared about rook takes g2.
What?
What?
So he's giving a draw.
Oh,
This is giving a draw.
he was afraid of something there.
Yeah, rook takes
Remarkable.
g2 may scared him, but pawn f3 to follow.
Huh.
Black should take the draw here.
With glee.
Well, you were saying, was there a draw so far? And it so happened, here we go. But I think king takes g1 was
Be
winning for white.
interesting to look at that continuation.
Oh, Kataska's disconnected for a moment.
Oops.
Just jokingly, it's like, how could I allow that draw? Disconnect.
Right. I'm disgusted with myself. Help me understand the rules for a disconnect, Justin. How does that work if you disconnect?
Yeah, there are some server problems, by the way.
Yeah.
That's why.
Oh, that's
Yeah, it
because that
says-
big tournament's just started.
Yeah, that
The
could be
Bitcoin
it.
tournament.
There's is it the Agad Master one?
Mhm. There
Yeah,
must
maybe
be
that's,
a lot of 1,000 players. Because it's not a titled arena, it's open to anyone.
But for example, if a player Katas disconnects, does he have a certain amount of time to?
No, we've not really come to that scenario.
Okay.
And the players are
I
quite
mean-
gentleman-like with each other in this community, so
They're
yeah.
both adding time to each other, but they haven't agreed to a draw, funnily enough.
I
They're
mean,
just
Yeah,
waiting for the
draws off
server
it.
problems
Draws off
to
it. Yeah.
during
Wow.
the Magnus Carlsen
Resolve.
tour, a number of the Chinese players had connectivity problems.
Yeah, someone's saying 7,000 games should have started simultaneously. There's 17843 players registered in the Agadmata arena. I mean, that's the internet now. It's like, can you imagine a hall big enough to fit 17,843 players? Just to get one round done would be an achievement.
Not
Actually,
taking up a
Andrea
lot
can
of
probably
bandwidth.
imagine that. You've been like a referee for the Schackfyran, right, Andrea? For when they're in the Globe Arena with like 5,000 or 6,000 kids playing, right?
Well, at least a couple of thousand players.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
incredible.
we have a children's tournament in
Right.
Sweden, not now, obviously, during the pandemic, but previously, where 10, 11-year-olds play, and it's thousands of participants in the same location.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Oh,
And
we
it's
asked
really,
for is
really
one
funny
game
because you
to
have
follow.
several thousand 10, 11-year-old kids, and while they're playing, it's actually, I wouldn't say quiet, but it certainly doesn't sound like several thousand 10-year-olds. Trust me on that one.
Yeah, right. I have this wonderful story from my friend Grandmaster Ben Feingold. So Ben is living in Michigan, and he's visiting a scholastics tournament, and the organizer comes and says, Ben, I desperately need your help. Could you be an assistant arbiter for the round? And Ben says, sure. So Ben is one of those guys who believes an arbiter shouldn't be seen or heard unless called for. So two kids raise their hands, and Ben goes over, looking at the position, and he goes, well, why did you call me over? We think the position is a draw, the two kids say. And why is that, says Ben? So it was a white king on G3 being checkmated by like 4 black pieces simultaneously. The king's under like quadruple check and is mated beyond a shadow of a doubt. But on the other side of the board, Black's king is equally checked, this time even more forcefully, like by 5 white pieces and a pawn as well. And checkmate is obvious to everybody. So, says Ben, what's the problem? The kids say, we think it's stalemate. Stalemate, says Ben. Stalemate means a draw. Yes, the kids say, we understand that. But you see, the other king can't move anywhere. It's completely hemmed in by the other pieces, and so is mine. Ben says, so you both agree it's a draw? The kids, yes. So Ben blesses the result. The kids shake hands and then starts looking for an exit. How do I get out of it before the parents show up? My kid was
quickly reset the
checkmating
board so
other
nobody
guy.
sees it.
Exactly. My kid was checkmating the other kid. We do have a disconnect or a server problem.
Yes, we do.
Or
So
both.
that's okay, but our conversation here is still live. I'll take the opportunity to thank a few donations. Orim15 donated
Please.
$10. Rookboy donated $6.66 earlier. Yeah, nearly 50% of the 2022 fund is there on the target.
Wonderful. And you're raising
Yeah.
money for the next
That's
cycle,
right.
is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
It's like this. It seems like this tournament never ends. It's just this cyclic. The moment we get through one year, then it starts again in January, and there's always a CWC match going on at some point during the year. It feels like. So yeah, we'll try to kick
players
that off. So,
Yeah.
drawn by mutual
The
agreement.
task-
Okay. Good.
Okay. Katas got here by winning a series of matches, but did he have to qualify for the matches as well? Oops.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's a wonderful thing with this tournament. Like it's not by invitation, except for the defending champion, and so you've got to run through the same gauntlet as everyone else. So Katask has gone through the knockout phase, candidate stage, and it's quite a robust format. We generally find that the 2 best players that are expected tend to end up in the final table.
Nice.
Okay, so we're back here. Same opening as we had before. This knight sacrifice. The point being, if f takes e5, d takes e5, and there's the queens are traded, it's actually fine for black, I believe.
I was just going to say the last time this precise variation had been played, I think h3 had been played last game. Black lost terribly. I mean, it wasn't. That was the king g3 walk, if you remember, but it was I mean, black played well just to hang in there. I thought it was a terrible sacrifice. It didn't, for me, appeal.
But I'm sure he's winning there. I mean, it was unnecessary to go into that line. Just knight h5 and after king a3 and take the queen. I'm sure black is winning there. It gives white some opportunities. So I think black would be very happy to repeat that position.
So you think pawn to h3 is a good move now for black?
Not necessarily, but if we're gonna go into the same line, then I think black should do it. But maybe white has improvements as well, yeah.
Yeah, just to be
but pawn at h3 seems very reasonable.
Right. So the way it happened last time, the pawn went to h3. There was a capture, bishop capture. Pawn went to g2. The bishop gave up itself on g2, and then white planted a knight on f5 because the bishop on c8 was sacrificed as well. Knight to g4. Novelty.
Yeah, I mean, I think with black here, your options are something like knight g4, knight c6, pawn h3 in the previous move. But when you play knight c6, you can sometimes end up just getting pushed off the board. If it's too passive, as either a pawn at g5 or a pawn at d6, and I think catask is at least choosing an aggressive move of some form. But yeah, pawn at d6, it looks nice here. I think
that's prophylaxis.
I think you just e takes f7. That's admitting that you don't want to challenge on e6, but you're safe.
Wow, that feels like a very, very good extra pawn for white in my eyes, but I don't know. How about yourselves? Do you think that this is playable for black?
I'd be asking myself, what sort of attack does the knight on g4 support?
Right.
It's either a pawn at f2 or knight takes h2.
Right.
Yeah, I was thinking really knight takes h2 right now would be.
You start with
give white time to consolidate here. It's dangerous. So I think knight takes h2 right now is probably called for.
Try and activate the bishop on e7 somehow on the dark squares. It's a bit clunky.
The problem I had with knight takes h2 was pawn to h6. If you take the rook, I take on g7, of course, and I take the knight. And if you take the pawn, then I take the knight, and I was thinking that another pawn would go to g7. He played d5, by the way. Are we fans of this move?
Yeah, I like it. You want bishop c5, and then the queen can come to h4 in some lines.
Queen can go to
h4. If not d5, I was thinking c5. But to attack, I think that knight on d4 you want in your hand as black. So bishop c5 here, maybe.
By the way, catask is
very
really
hard to
having
play this with 10 seconds.
Yeah, very hard time on the clock in this session. He's really fallen behind often, I want to say. I'm assuming the idea is bishop f4, queen f4.
Yeah, F4, and then bishop at e3. Bishop at e3. Bishop at e3. Yeah.
Yeah. Check.
Yeah, but also pawn at f2, bishop f4, pawn at f2 is also more than playable. But maybe taking is.
Yeah, I was considering knight f3. Is d takes e4 playable here? He's gone pawn f2.
Well, the question still stands: is d takes e4 playable?
I think it is.
We're about to find out.
But so what's important is queen takes d6, queen takes d6, bishop takes d6. If queen at g8, you must take with the rook. Or else you get mated if you take with a knight first, and then there's a smothered mate with knight at f7. So that's the key. Queen at g8, rook takes g8.
What do we do about knight takes e4? Same ideas. Well, he didn't want to find out, but knight takes f6 and queen g8 again. Isn't that just over?
Knight takes f6.
Queen g1.
Yeah.
Wow. That
start pawn at h6.
In that position.
No, I think Neil was leaving the knight on e4 to keep the king defended.
Ah, okay.
Very sharp, very sharp.
Rook f7. Oh my gosh, they're trading remarkable blows here. If you take the rook, he wants to take on f2 and play knight to e4.
If he takes the rook, I think queen at e2 was.
Well, you gotta be careful here with white.
Wow.
Yeah, you give him black and white now, so now there's a mate threat. But okay, this is
incredible stuff, guys. With no time for the players. Knight.
So rook takes f5, maybe.
He could take the rook on d8.
Okay, he decided to defend some. Now maybe rook takes f5.
Yeah, now he does it,
Because now bishop on g1 covers a bit extra.
I'm not feeling it. Queen takes d8.
Everything is on here.
Oh my gosh.
I love it.
This is fantastic. This is what Crazyhouse should be. So enough defense on f7.
So is this mate? Rook takes f8. Rook takes f8. Was queen at g8. Knight at g6. Knight at f7.
Yeah, knight at g6 lines were mating.
Some knight at g6 you start with. Yeah, some line there was probably mate.
Yeah.
Okay, but calculating that in on increment is awful.
I think starting with knight at g6. Starting with knight at g6 was probably mate there. But I think this is still in favor of white.
Oh, big time. Queen to f8.
Well, you can just rip off on g5 and then say, what have you got? There's no mate threat with e1 queen.
No.
This is looking for f7 as well. So do you promote to a knight here? Yeah, that queen on e1 is nothing to be worried about.
No. Ooh, good move.
And now it's just, I have enough pieces.
This is where GSPC would say mate by assumption from here.
Yeah, queen d5 is probably fastest after takes.
That was fun, guys. No, seriously, encapsulating that last 60 seconds with rooks hanging and queens hanging and both players trying to drop in smothered mates. That was gorgeous stuff.
So look at Jasugi here today, 7.5 to 3.5. And I don't think it's like catask has just said, well, okay, we'll make it easy for you.
No. I think you called it almost at the very opening that because of the match score being so one-sided, Jasugi could just simply play without the nerves of, I'm going to lose my World Championships title or something. And we've seen it. I mean, that last game for me was just fantastic. That was really what, to my mind, makes Crazyhouse such a fun variant. That was really great stuff.
I think what makes it fun is you have absolutely no idea who's winning for half the game or how to evaluate the position.
Yeah. It's not only that I don't know what's going on, I don't even know how to begin to understand what's going on.
There'll be some situations where you have the 6 commentators here plus the 2 players not having any idea of what's going on, which is lovely.
It really was.
And then what determines it is, well, I've only got 3 seconds. I have to move. Let's go. And
right.
Time will tell.
Knight to g4. Okay, that's telegraphing that if ever I get a pawn, I can put it on f6, and that move seems to encourage white to achieve whatever he's hoping for. Pawn to d5. Wow, that is really an in-your-face kind of move, huh?
That seems necessary. Otherwise, indeed, White was going to play d5 himself, trade a pawn, put it on f6. Now black is just in time, I think.
Okay.
Yes, many times Clearcasters played d5 against me and broken open a position, I'm sure. Knight takes d5 or d5, something on d5 always seems to happen against Clearcast.
Maybe I'm in the Ove Anderson school of the Crazyhouse.
Clearcast is a one-trick pony. Put the pawn on d5 and everything.
Doesn't matter if it's a very good trick.
It is very good. The number of times he's done it to me, I'm like, surely I should have seen that as a candidate move. Why did
I remember once I heard Kasparov said something about Nigel Short and his white game against the is it Scheveningen, the opening, or one of the Sicilians, where he said he only has one move and it's g4. The only problem is it's a very good move.
yeah, exactly. The English attack with f3 and g4. It's a very good move. Yeah, that's okay. Here, Jasugi's facing a lot of righteous anger. Pawn is dropping on g6 or maybe h7 because f7 is on prise. So I'm thinking black's in trouble. And he's trying to shore up f7 with this move, but
I think he's going to take with the king if you take on f7.
Yeah.
So at g6 makes sense.
But at some point, you're just going to snap the knight on g5, right? It's going to be too many holes around the king, even if you have an extra queen.
I do it. Oh, I was going to do it right then, but he took it. He's giving. Oh, okay.
Yeah, thought the knight would capture first before the bishop. Unless there was like some bishop at h7 trick, maybe.
Well, here bishop b3 seems useful.
Oi, I approve.
Yeah, I had expected this actually. Yeah, but bishop b3 also clear cast. I'm with you 100%. But this looks really.
Yeah, he wins the queen back if he wants.
Yeah, White's king is so safe. I mean, just look at White's king. No, this is over. Although I must say, I would have probably liked to see a white bishop on c4. It could have landed there some time ago with a check.
I thought d5 was very strong. Even here still, d5.
d5.
Oh, pawn at
like
d5.
It, yeah.
I'm not surprised you like it, Clearcast. But I would have moved the pawn from d4 to d5. I would have conserved. That's okay. It's good enough.
It's a good d4 to d5 is better in today's age of climate change and durability.
Yeah.
I was having dinner once with Jan Timman in Avaikansee. And during our dinner, a journalist came up to Jan and said, "Mr. Timman, why did you play this move, d5 in this case, and not that move?" And Jan, who was eating dinner, kind of looked at the guy and he said, "Well, my opponent resigned." I mean, I made a move. My opponent resigned. What was wrong with my move? But yeah, that's a pretty good point. D5, like you just said, Justin, and the opponent resigned. And you were saying I would have put the pawn, used the pawn on D4 to go to D5.
Yeah, but that was before he actually resigned, so...
Yeah, exactly.
If you also notice in that game, Catask made absolutely sure that there's no last-ditch pawn at h2 check, like in the previous similar situation and desperation.
Avoiding the draw.
Fun fact about Timman, by the way, I won with a line in the Peert's defense with the queen b4 line against the Austrian attack. Maybe you
Yes.
know it.
I know it well. Yeah.
I stole the idea from you.
Oh, I did it.
A game of yours, and I looked at it with the computer for a bit, and then I played it against Timman in the Blitz game, and he made a blunder somewhere.
And
So I was
you
very
won.
fortunate to play against him and won. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Nice.
Big story. Nice.
Nice. Nice. I love it. Love it. No, that particular line of the perk was a real favorite. I was a class player. Well, what we would call in America expert. That was a 2000 player. And this was before the databases. And the joy was that you could use a novelty, not once, not twice, but 3 and 4 times. You know? I mean, it was really, really a lot of fun. Now, you know, you get to use a novelty once, and 3 other people get to use it. You don't get to use it again.
Was that famous story of the Russians versus, was it the Argentinian team where they all played the same line of the night off? And all
In
lost?
Sweden, the Gothenburg variation. The Gothenburg variation. How do I say that in Swedish?
Göteborg.
Thank you. I was so close. Felt really good there for a moment. Pawn to g4, guys. Let's go.
Well, maybe,
Let's have some
but
fun.
maybe we just. So you take queen, you play g takes f3, or d takes e4.
I was going to play d5 takes e4. I would have put the pawn on in hand on the g4 square, and then just sacrifice my queen and try to get him with a whole pawn storm. Probably I'm losing, but knight to g4.
It's like he's trying to slow down the counterattack with pawn at h6. Exactly. You notice white only has 1 pawn in hand.
And at the same time, when he takes the queen, he'll recapture and he'll be threatening knight e3. So maybe this move, knight g4, is actually best.
Yeah, and also always in these types of position, black, if he gets time, he will play pawn at b2 at some moment as well, to lure away the bishop from e3.
Very, very important point. Good point.
Wow, so he's just given up the bishop on h6. Okay, he says the queen is not trapped though. It can go to e3.
But then queen d2 forces queen trade almost.
Queen d2.
Here,
yeah, and then white's safe with the knight covering h3. So
yeah, I was about to say here I feel almost compelled to put a bishop on h8. It looks ugly, but bishop h8.
Ooh, picking off the knight possibly. So pawn at g7 here. You got to defend the knight on h6, I think.
Agreed.
And then
takes e7, yeah.
Okay, so black having to give back some material here to safen up the king. Do you retreat here? Queen d2, queen g5 to d2.
That feels like a success for black. He breaks.
It does, doesn't it? But
yeah,
maybe success is inevitable in stopping that initiative.
Right, that the bishop on h8 could actually causes a lot of problems. Here I'm playing knight g4 in an instant, by the way. Like
knight g4.
Or sorry, was that Justin?
You're playing knight g4 here as black.
Yes, I was yes. So just so that I could play h6 and I don't know.
Okay.
You make some relief for my king. Whoa, e4.
There's also a point now that the king cannot retreat to f2 or g1, then knight h3 will become available.
Okay, nice.
Yep.
And if the king goes to f1 after takes on f3, there's always problems on e2 or g2. So actually, white's king is not that safe.
Look at this, guys. Whoa.
Yeah, attack and counter attack.
Seriously, we've been seeing that. so well illustrated in this particular match.
So-
By the way, I must say, for the third, this is the third day of play, I've enjoyed these games more. There have been some incredible games so far. So knight takes f5, queen takes e4, queen check on e2. My spidey sense is tingling.
Yeah, knight takes
Yeah.
e3 to follow is already
Right.
good. Maybe you've checkmate, but
Exactly.
black is still safe.
Yeah.
I was
That was
considering.
my feeling.
I was considering queen at d5 there. Maybe this is more direct, but
Oh,
queen at d5 I thought was interesting.
you dirty rat think. That's a great move, Justin. So knight takes e3 check.
And throw in
Is
pawn
that
h3 in between here. Yeah, for good measure.
What
Just
an incredible
to-
job the knight
Yeah.
on c6 is doing.
Yeah,
Wow, that
What a game
was
by catask.
nice defense
was-
from
Yeah.
Katas.
That was incredible.
That was really nice defense.
beautifully
I mean, who would think to put a bishop on h8 and then pawn at g7?
done.
Boxing in the king in all directions. And the knight's defending the exact squares you need.
Okay, so
Close to a
we've seen
stalemate,
this
Neil.
line.
Now this is a knight at g6 line.
This is the knight at g6 line. The knight takes e5, d takes e5, knight takes e3, queen g4, knight at g6 key move. But this is a different move.
Was
Bishop
it d
takes e5.
e5
It was d
last
takes
time?
e5 last time. So I feel like black should be okay here. The c3 pawn is going to be hanging, and
So, for
It's-
example, if we go bishop to h5 check
yeah, then bishop at g6,
and queen g4.
queen g4. Then can I take h5?
Threatening-
Oh, you're threatening queen takes
G7
g7. Sorry.
e6. Yeah. I wanted to with the queen on g4 there, I was hitting g6 and e6.
Yep.
That was my thought. Yeah. But okay, bishop h3 is met very nicely by this move, knight to g5. Black has more knights than white has bishops.
Yeah, Katas loves a bishop on h3. I always see a bishop on
Safe.
h3. Yeah, it's just safe. But here, he's not keeping it.
No, he's not. In fact, there she goes. Queen. No, whoa. Surprise move.
I think you just take that. Knight takes f4.
Yeah, it looks
I'm like, where's
knight
the,
f4
and then knight takes c3 is coming. Like, where's the compensation?
no compensation in that case. Bishop f7.
So
a little confusion.
If bishop at f8, maybe pawn at e7 is the idea. So you could play rook g8 to defend, but this is
sure
why I
you're
thought
right, there was
this is
some
why I thought
comments.
knight takes f4, because then black gets to start some initiative a bit sooner.
Mhm. Certainly.
If pawn at e7, I wonder if you give
You
up the
have to
queen.
sack the queen?
Well, you could.
I don't like bishop takes e7.
I don't like bishop takes e7 either.
I hate bishop takes e7 here. Ooh. I think your king is just walking for sure. Here I'm taking on h6 unless then there's
This knight takes
and knight check.
e6. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But maybe knight takes f4
F4
to
again.
start. Knight takes f4 because you're threatening knight takes e2 check, which is mating. So you do have to recapture the knight on f4, and then maybe
Respect
you
the
have
mate.
time to play g takes h6. So it's
I like
removing your
that.
liability on e6 with tempo. Knight takes f4. And he has heard me. It's like you say, Yasser. This guy is pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, everybody, keep your voices down, soft.
And here the king can go to d7 after knight at g7, so it's not really anything.
Yep. It's a big difference having no bishop on e6. You're so well covered on the light squares this way.
Totally agreed.
So if you're white here, you have to keep a straight face and find a move. That's the next.
I was going to suggest queen b5 check. If you put a bishop on c6, then in that variation where you go king to c6, I go like knight g7 check. I can then go bishop to f5 check and take the knight on e4, but I don't believe it for white. It's just
right, but if knight at g7, we're not taking that
Not
first
taking
knight.
it.
We just go king d7 immediately to
Gotcha.
keep the light squares under control. So black's just up a bit of material here.
Quite a bit, I would say.
Yeah, d6 is solid. Bishop at g4 was interesting.
Right. I was more of the bishop dropping in.
Yeah, I would think queen takes g4, rook takes g4, bishop at h3 might have happened.
Probably
Keeping the king.
catask move, yeah.
So you're noted for your queen sacrifices, Justin, and Catask is noted for his Ulf Anderson like vigilance over squares.
Yeah, and possibly a lot of other things like tenacity, like opening theory. He's just got so many dimensions to his game, Catask. I just have queen sack. That's it.
Nice. Okay, here, are we afraid of queen takes e6? So we'll put a bishop on f6 and challenge him to give up his queen?
We're not
With
afraid.
Catask.
King can go to d7 again.
The king d7, bishop at f5 maybe was something to be concerned
Right.
about, though.
Yeah, okay, but after if necessary, right?
Yes,
Right.
okay.
So let you necessary, you can go king d7, king c8, give up a piece somewhere, and
Right. Kind of remarkable. Black has no pawns in hand. In these types of positions, normally, like you just start putting pawns on the board and covering up whatever it needs to cover, but he doesn't have any.
Yeah, he's got a considerable material advantage, but then, white only has weaknesses on one color of squares, so it should be better for black, but it's not. It's a long game still.
Was this move knight f5, f8 designed to stop bishop e6 or pawn coming to e6? Is that the purpose?
Yeah, you just the light fields, and you can see d7 and f7 are both defended before required.
Light fields. Nice. Again, black just doesn't have that many pawns in hand. It's strange. Okay, he's doing a good job at covering up the squares.
Yeah, I think it's the right approach. Black has to be patient and actually defend here, despite having, the queen in hand, because you're not breaking the position immediately. There's a bishop on h3. And therefore safe. It's like, oh, I'm safe. Right. And we'll think of the next thing to do after this.
I would put a knight on f5, going to f5 with the idea of tickling h6, but also e7. He did both. He got the knight to h6 and h6. That's he's using the Serowan field theory. The Serowan field theory states that whenever given a choice between two desirable objects, you should expand your capacity to accept both.
Very nice. Yeah, somehow catask has engineered an advantage here.
Remarkable.
Largely through safety from bishop at h3 stopped any counterplay, and now
Mhm.
it's this is White's game now.
Remarkable. Great stuff. Seriously, marvelous skill. Ooh, I'm not a big fan of taking on f6 in that position, but
That was a
I
very
mean,
good move,
he's
bishop at d6
yeah,
by Jasugi.
yeah.
Watch
But
out for
this is really
c6 now.
killing. Yeah, we're gonna see a knight to
Yeah,
e5
bishop at
and a rook to
b5 looks
f8.
like a move.
Yeah,
Yeah,
knight e5,
or
bishop
knight
e5,
c6.
and rook f8. Yeah, this was what I was assuming.
The catask is just on autopilot here. It's
But look at his king. Look how safe his king is. It's fantastic. f7 and nothing.
it all comes apart now. Yeah, that
Wow,
was impressive from catask.
that was probably one of the best turnaround games we've been witnessing there. He just kept playing a lot of really, really good moves.
But he didn't have anything direct, but he just had the e6 and light square weaknesses, and then just kept his king safer, even with a material disadvantage. It's hard for black. It feels like black should be better, but I think you've got to be so accurate.
I'm just wondering whether queen takes e6, allowing that move, was a turning point, or whether black could somehow defend after queen takes e6.
Is it when black gave up the queen? Queen takes e6.
White gave up the
Oh,
queen.
white
Queen
gave up
takes
the queen.
e6.
Sorry.
Because
Yeah,
I think it wasn't necessary to allow that if he was worried about the light squares and all the pawns and bishops coming in.
it's hard. Losing a game like that with black. For myself, I get really worried in a match because I don't even know where I went wrong, and that's where you feel like your opponent understands the game so much better than you do. That's the worst
Exactly.
feeling. Like when you know where you went wrong, it's okay. You can improve the next game. When you're like, it just got taken from under your nose. It feels like.
Yeah, that was a memorable line from Jonathan Tisdall, Grandmaster Jonathan Tisdall from America. He played in my U.S. Junior Championships in 1976 in Memphis. He was interviewing Magnus Carlsen for his match with Nepo. And he said to Jonathan Tisdall, interviewing Magnus, asked Magnus, so do you think that your advantage in this match is that in case you get to tiebreakers, you're better in the tiebreakers? And he says, no, my advantage in this match is that I'm a better player. To what you're saying, Justin, I got a problem here. I'm playing somebody better than I am. I can't help you. Also, on that same note, two close friends. I mean, they were like brothers. They went to play school together. Grandmaster Miguel Angel Quinteros and Jorge Rubinetti of Argentina, two incredibly close friends. And they were playing in a tournament in Buenos Aires, and at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, there's a knock on Quinteros's door, and it's his brother, his dear friend, Jorge Rubinetti. And Jorge's at the door, and he says, Miguel, you have to help me. In 3 hours, I have to play Bobby Fischer with the black pieces, and you've got to tell me what I have to do. Miguel looked at him and said, dude, there's nothing I can do for you in the next 3 hours that's going to help. You're toast. Let's go out and have a very nice lunch. And this evening, you can tell me how close you were to making a draw. And that's exactly what happened. He was just a tempo away from making a draw. Yeah, those are great moments. Help. What do I do? Whoa. Okay, D5. That's creative. Wow. D5 in that moment.
Yeah, the problem is if that black knight ever retreated, then white was going to play f5, and the f file is just crushing. So it's better to let the knight go and have a pawn on f6, and then try to generate some initiative on g2, f2. So,
Knight d7 now, though.
knight at d7, yeah.
But the whole point is that after queen trade, queen at g1, knight at f2, smothered mate. But you can take the bishop.
He spotted it. Just take c5.
Well, the problem I'm having, though, Clearcast, is he takes the bishop on c5, and the pawn drops to h3. Is that not serious?
Oh, yeah, it is.
We're seeing it. We're seeing it. And queen trades work in black's favor.
Yeah, what
Rook
to do
f2
here?
or something.
Rook to f2.
Yeah, rook f2.
We take on h3 and drop a pawn to f3.
But I think
rook f2, there's something wrong with rook f2.
But I think bishop at f3 you can play e takes f3, because if bishop takes f3 then you've got queen takes d1, and then either f2 falls to knight at f2 or g2 falls. So that
good point.
So
I
maybe
think
if
you're
e
right.
takes f3 you may have to play queen takes d8 first. No, because now queen takes d1 looks
Pinned. It's over.
What do you do against queen takes d1 here?
Oh, hold on. Queen
rook
takes d1,
takes-
rook takes d1. Sorry.
Because queen at d7 is on. Sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think we both.
Yeah, but you have knight at f2, queen at h1, queen takes d1, and then you can play bishop takes d1 maybe, but surely that position is dangerous. Yeah.
Oh, same idea with knight f2 now. Yeah, right.
Okay. This move order.
Yeah, that looked like a very good move order for
I think
black.
rook f1 here possibly, because you have to make some threat. Oh, that moment's
Here,
passed.
can I play bishop e1? I want to take the rook and threaten mate on g1 if I can. Okay, some similar idea, threatening mate on g1. Bishop takes bishop to e3. Take that rook.
Yeah, white starts running out of material.
If you take the rook, there's maybe takes e6 or this, and then there's some tricks left.
Okay, this was the move I had expected. Bishop h3. Now the rook drops to e1. One of the rooks dropped to e1, whatever. So we're threatening to capture.
Maybe defend this one with knight at c1. Oh no, he's. Could he have taken everything on f1 and then bishop takes g2? Or maybe there's rook at g1 to block, so g2 could be held.
Yeah. Pawn at d7 looks interesting, doesn't it?
I think white's got to try.
He just has to see that he can defend with rook at g1.
Whoa.
Snatches the pawn.
I thought he was going to put a rook on f3 instead of taking on g2. I thought, oh my gosh, that would have been a nasty move. But maybe this one is as good. Bishop there.
So catask fighting back this series. Yeah, this is convincing.
This is still exciting. No. Okay, knight at g3, rook at h2 maybe.
Yeah, knight at g3, rook at h2 is mate.
Yeah. But also, I didn't think that white just had any material to deliver any checks to black's king.
I think at d7 was mentioned. That was the try. instead
Yeah,
of knight at G1.
but much earlier I felt bishop at f3 missed the tricks where there was something that was overburdened the bishop on f3, covering g2 and the queen on d1.
Yeah, but that was he had to assess that before he took on c5, which is crazy.
No, because I think
Queen
you can
takes d8,
you can play queen takes d8 as an intermediate move before bishop takes f3, and then white's probably still okay.
For me, the move d6, d5 that was played so quickly, that was really a great move. Wow. That's some great awareness. By the way, this pattern, bishop takes h6 followed by g4. This looks like one that's worth remembering.
Yeah, it's a nice trick.
It sure does
But
look it.
knight takes g3 is annoying to deal with. Or Tusk probably has something ready, but I wonder if he should have played that instead of knight f6.
Right. Here I would be inclined to play e2, e4 as white. Ulf will say, but it weakens the f3 square.
Again, I would agree. I never played my e-pawn here in these types of positions.
Yeah, quite commonly, if you fianchetto in Crazyhouse, that pawn on e2 is there for life to defend. It's just in principle, I suppose.
Maintain the
yeah, maybe e4 is a good move. And computer can suggest e4 as well, but exactly in principle, you just don't play it.
I don't think it's even a candidate move in a lot of players' minds. It's they would be completely blind to e4.
Okay, are we sacrificing our queen, Justin?
I am, but I don't know if catask is.
Yes.
Okay, he's on.
Okay.
He's on board.
Well, first you have to start with bishop h3, though, right? just to make sure there's no mate coming your. I thought it was a bishop. He preferred the pawn. Okay.
I thought it was a joke. Pawn at g5 was the only move in my mind there.
Yeah, but on the other hand, pawn at g5, rook h8, you were going to put something on the h file anyway.
That's
so you
right.
might as well.
That's right.
Okay, here I must say I want to defend the pawn on g5. I'm just not sure if I want to use the pawn on f4 or a bishop. He chose the bishop. Good decision?
Yeah, I guess.
You support h6. There could be trades later on d6 if that's useful.
Exactly. You can put something on d7, knight takes c6 ideas. You can trade more pieces. And I think it's a good idea to defend g3 as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Later on, knight takes g3 is sometimes very annoying.
Yeah, for the viewers this is interesting. You know, you say, well, you gave up the queen, but black has a queen, and it's hard to make use of it without giving it back because there's no real spot to put it. That's one of the unusual quirks in Crazyhouse that makes a queen sacrifice possible sometimes, where it's not even contemplated in chess.
Well, it was a theory of Victor Korchnoi as well, that Victor's idea was that, you know, when the queens are traded and you promote a pawn, that was very good, that the queens were traded and you promoted a pawn that you know, you get all of the values and virtues of promoting a pawn. However, if a queen was already on the board and you promoted a pawn to a queen, that the board was too small for two queens. You didn't get, if you have two queens on the board, let's say on d3 and d2, you're not getting the full benefit of having two queens. You know? I mean, like, what are they doing? You know, so in Crazyhouse, it's like, you know, it's just a unit.
But there's a unique enjoyment of writing on your score sheet Queen 2 to E3, for example.
Yes, that is true. That is true. And that can't be discounted, Neil.
But yes, sir, you've been sacrificing quite a few queens yourself. I know at least two opening lines where you sacrifice queens in the Yugoslav, the famous draw. And also, I noticed you played the Samish queen sack variation against Kasparov in Skellefteå.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, that was a funny game because I had played the perk my whole life, and I've never played the perk in a way that my opponent on move 3 plays F3 so he can play a Samish. So Gary outfoxed me into playing the Bronstein Queen Sacrifice. And then he spent like 2 hours defending the position. It was very funny. Gary was always good in this way.
You had a good position there, right? You were even better at some point.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. I wanted to say that Gary had this truly remarkable ability of putting his foot firmly in his mouth. And there's so many examples of that, but my favorite one was in 1992 in the Bobby Fischer Boris Spassky rematch. Gary was winning the tournament in Linares, and a Spanish journalist had said, Mr. Kasparov, Bobby Fischer and Spassky down the street, they say they are playing for the World Chess Championship. Are they? And Gary said, of course not. They play old man's chess. Old man's chess, said the journalist. But please understand, I'm just a poor journalist. I know nothing about the world of chess. How do I know what is the...
Knight F7. While we were talking there, Knight F7, you just snatched up many more. Sorry, go ahead, yes, sir.
Beautiful smothered Nate. Says, well, how will I know who's playing for the World Championship? And Gary said, by the money, whoever makes the most money plays for the World Championship. And in Yugoslavia, Spassky and Fischer played for $5 million. And in London in 1993, Kasparov and Nigel Short played for £1 million. So the Spanish journalist was like, dude, you're not helping me here. Whoever plays for the most money is the world champion. Still, nicely done, Gary. What the heck is this? What just happened? Queen E2? Discuss somebody. What was Queen E2?
Yeah, is E5 a move? Sorry.
Bishop takes F7, Queen C4 is sometimes an idea. With early Queen E2.
Wow.
But aside from that, I don't know.
Yeah, I was looking at E5 over H3. We've given up a pawn, so try to be active. I don't know if it's anything really, but
it's confusing for me to see a pawn sacrifice when I think these pawns are so valuable, and then to see almost immediately after sacrificing a pawn a defensive reaction H3. It's sort of like you're in aggressive mode and then safety mode, like.
Yeah, I think these guys just want to be creative now. The last couple of games, just try to play something new and get them out of book. Just have some fun.
When you've played Queen E2, the last thing you want to be hit by is a Knight D4, especially when you push your C pawn.
True that. So I'm thinking to put a pawn on G4. Is that too aggressive?
Um,
You have to be careful about bishop takes
Bishop
f7,
F7.
knight g5, and then queen takes g4 ideas. I don't know if in this position it works, but sometimes you can win the knight back with bishop h5 check after sacrificing. And the remaining position is usually very nice for white.
Okay.
yeah, the reason why catask will be taking some time here is because, yeah, like if you trade too fast, sometimes white can just build an attack very quickly, and there's plenty of pawns to trade. No shortage of material.
This is a bit of a surprise, though. I feel like now knight g5 or bishop takes f7, so you cover the e4 pawn and then take on d3, and white suddenly got a lot out of it, right?
Yeah, I think white's happy in this opening.
Pawn at e3 seemed.
Agreed.
Yeah, so
After
knight
bishop takes
g4.
f7, he was going to play king f8.
Right. Right.
But then you're weak, like pawn at d takes e3, knight takes e4, just pawn takes d4, knight g3, pawn at h6, and yeah. No, I feel like pawn at d3 was a bit off. I could be wrong. Too much talent, definitely.
Too much. Yeah, do we just open hack here? Pawn at h6? What do we think here?
Knight at d3.
Yeah.
Oh, knight at d3. Let's not forget that. We can castle first. But pawn at g3 or
Pawn at
bishop at
G3.
g3 could be annoying. Now white's regretting playing c3.
It's like these Marshall Gambit positions. We've got the stupid pawn on c3.
I think catask always seems to have a bishop to place on the board on c4 when he needs it, or b3 when he needs it.
Yeah, g3 also. Does it make sense to play a move like king g8 to lure a pawn to f7?
Sometimes it does, particularly when there's an open f file. You might want the white pawn here to hide behind.
Right. Here we're looking at bishop g3 for our audience, as well as maybe pawn to g3.
Yeah, you can sidestep it.
Yeah, queen e2 with queen c4 ideas. I like this better.
Like your pawn at g3 or bishop at g3 may not gain much if white just ignores it with queen e2.
Whoa, but in that case, white just ignores it with queen g2. In that case, any major piece will be made on the H line. I don't know. Ooh, that's a nice defensive move. It covers f7.
I like knight d2 back there against bishop at c4.
Agreed. I stopped myself because knight d2, what Justin says, is really a great idea.
Okay, so black got safe. Like the F file got blocked off. White used a couple pawns, and now black suddenly looks okay.
That was great play by black, a defensive play. There I was attracted to knight g3 and knight e3.
I was as well, but the other way around.
I have to say, you do control a lot of squares with 4 bishops. That's useful.
Yeah.
Catask has just no time.
That's the next chapter in my book, controlling squares with 4 bishops. How did you know? Controlling squares. Oh, that was pretty good.
Oh, f3 is hanging now.
But white can play f3 here.
Yeah, no,
like
white's
Crazyhouse equivalent of the bishop pair in chess. It's I have the 4 bishops.
No, I have the 4 bishops.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, I feel the computer really embarrasses me. I I have 4 knights in hand, and it's like I can't use them at all. And when the computer has 4 knights in hand, it mates me in the most beautiful patterns that could possibly be devised on a 64 square chessboard. It's like the knights control all the squares.
Jasugi's done extremely well in the last
Jasugi's turned this around, yeah.
Partly because of the time situation.
Yeah, and well, he is Jasugi after all still. Yeah, this isn't fun to play against Jasugi.
Taking the knight there.
Pawn at G7 is
Pawn at G7 was. This is Rook at G7. Rook at G7 here is. Yep, and king moves and resigns maybe.
You can try knight at E8, but
Rook at G7 mates here.
Mate.
Yeah, so knight at E8 was the only way I think, but even then it's difficult. Yeah.
8.5.
Great game by Jasugi.
Yeah. It's a shame this isn't the first 20 games, but
seriously, really, I again, Justin, I think you nailed it from the very start of the broadcast when you said that with the World Championship match itself no longer in doubt, Jasugi could just play free and easy games, and we've been seeing that, and he's so much more competitive.
He's so dangerous as well. When I find when he can just feel he can do anything in the opening and get away with it, then you're in trouble. And if you look back at the game, you'll find that there'll be chances in the opening that you could have taken, but it's unfamiliar and you don't know it, and there's original positions. It's nice to see him play in this style today.
Yeah. Well, here again, gentlemen, even though you disavow it, I love the move E2, E4. And certainly catask, he's not touching his E-pawn. That E-pawn, it's like we would joke about Ulf. Ulf liked to play knight F3, G3, and castles on his first move. And we were considering using some super glue and keeping his knight on G1 so he could lift it to put it on the F3 square. C7, C6. Okay. What can we do here?
Yeah, neither side has a way in here. You've got this 4th rank, which is this kind of force field between the two sides.
Right, the equator, yeah. How about this, guys? I'm taking on C6. If you take with the pawn, I want to put a pawn on G5.
And then if we rinse and repeat, is there something dangerous? Are you going all in with knight takes F7 and rook takes C6, something like that?
That kind of thing. That's exactly what I was thinking, Justin. H3, a move we've seen numerous times throughout this session. Catask really likes stopping the infestation before it happens.
Yeah, but I like pawn at E4 now, because if you back up the knight D5 and you have this amazing center, and if you give the knight, you have knight at D4, and so I think pawn at E4 would have been really strong there.
It's a really shocking move, C6, C5, not because I necessarily want to ambush the rook on A8, but it just, to my mind, it makes these types of sacrifices much more compelling.
Look at the D5 square.
The D5 square.
Look at the D5 square. Also
yes, also
D5 square.
Yeah.
I think a lot of players in Crazyhouse are just really happy to get rid of that A1 rook, because it does nothing for the whole game.
And it's so useful to have weakened so much of the center squares. Okay, here I'm attracted to knight F7 and bishop to C4 check before recapturing the rook. I first want to block bishop takes H3. So knight F7, king F7, bishop C4, pawn to E6, bishop takes rook.
So,
Yeah, I agree.
hmm,
And you threaten pawn at b7 ideas as well
Mhm.
to weaken the f7 c4 diagonal.
Right.
yeah, thematic idea here. Knight takes f7, king takes f7 with a bishop at c4. Just pawn at e6 blocks out that c8 bishop for the game.
Right.
And then you can maybe even grab a8 and
Exactly,
just
that-
say, I got away with taking your rook and your idea was to take h3, but now you can't have it.
Precisely, Justin. That was my thought. Exactly.
And if you move the king here, that's the other point. Then you take the rook and you threaten rook at f7.
Yep.
If
Or
you
just
move
pawn at
the-
f7 as well
Right.
is strong too.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was thinking the same. Pawn can go to f7 as well. This looks curtains.
Ah, it's not curtains, but I think it's a long game and white's comfortable. See, this is nearly like a positional crazy house. It's not like a sharp finish or a mate somewhere. It's actually, catask says I play h3, I threaten you with fortress, and you're defending all game. And what have you got?
I think he wants
And
to.
he's right.
Put
He's
in,
right. Like
yeah,
it's.
put a knight to g4. He's defending f6 before we could even get there. But I was about to say pawn to f6 takes twice, knight on e3 to g4. But he's done it this way with the idea of pawn to f6. This looks play on one goal here, guys.
Yeah, I can't really see how black's defending this.
I think you have to play knight f5 here to cover h6, and then at least queen is looking at f6 as well. You may have to take, and bishop at e5 and give the queen away.
For what?
To threaten to
Very
live.
little.
To threaten to live.
To increase the move number.
Pawn h7, queen f7 ideas are very strong soon.
I was about to say, yes, they are. Wow. Queen to c6. That's a nice one. I would go after that light squared bishop. Something like rook to c7 here I find very attractive.
Mug, what was it? Your comment? This is control house, not crazy house.
Yeah, but it's catask bread and butter, isn't it?
Yeah, so nice. It's found g6 the whole and.
Oh, queen takes d4. Very pretty. Wow. That combination, Justin, Catask's play, that mixture of aggression but ultra safety is well, it's almost kind of a lethal way of play.
Yeah, I think in sharp positions you can find the move, and then also when there's a super blockade on the board, is very resourceful at finding very gradual moves of progress, and is also quite efficient on the clock in doing so. So there, that's his go-to strategy. It's like fortress, let's be solid, and then any trades that happen on the board will favor me. Where you can nearly feel compelled if you're Jasugi that you've got to try to attack real fast, because if he's too safe, it's not looking good.
Not clawing your way through, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes it can make you sacrifice things prematurely when you're just in that mood.
It is really nice to see in part 3 that Jasugi's shown what he's capable of. It's some
absolutely
really brilliant games.
Yeah, what a match score this would have been if this had been our first day of play. 9.5, 8.5.
I think Jasugi's been quite busy in life as well with study on the side. That was what I think he only just finished his final exams, maybe not long before this started. So that's the trouble with getting older as a Crazy House player. Life gets in the way of your priorities.
Anybody mention Spencer? How's he doing?
So I just then, when I walked off camera before, I just needed to take a quick bathroom break, and I thought he'd just stay in the room, and he had like less than a minute, and then he escaped, and I'm like, where'd he go? And then I was trying to give the wife a night of sleep, so he's just burst into the master bedroom, and he's climbed in with this noisy dog and has shoved it in her face. I'm like, man.
Well done.
I gave you 1 minute. I've been up with you
1
like
minute.
2 hours, and you have not tried to escape, and you gave him 1 minute. So he's
Look what happens. Yeah.
This is like there's a player Dovinic, like this bishop on h6 and g7 is like his ideal setup, and then
Yeah.
if you
He's a catask light, you could say.
yeah, catask.
He's a little bit. He's worse at defending.
Yeah.
He's like
Catask
catask on level 3 or 4 maybe instead of level 8.
Exactly.
I thought Queen D7 was an incredibly artificial move with the singular idea of Queen to G4, and when that move was prevented, Queen to G4, I mean, he went back to D8, losing like 2 tempi. That was not him at his best.
You take his
Okay,
rook
let's
Yeah,
go.
just take E7 now and pawn at F6. This is.
You might even take
Right.
B7. You
Yeah, I
might
was
take
gonna take
B7.
B7 first.
I love
but should
that.
get rid of the. Yeah, okay, maybe even that.
Yeah.
But okay, no hurry. You can get the rook to H3 and then do it. Yeah.
I was going to say that if you didn't want to take G6 or B7, F4, F5.
Yeah, I just feel like
just
Jasugi's giving
sack.
Catask a taste of his own medicine here. It's just, I'm going to make quick moves, make gradual progress. It's like,
You
Knight
go ahead.
B3 to C5.
yeah, knight B3 to C5.
And then bishop B5.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys are piling on now.
And
The
this
world,
is worst
the
case
world versus
scenario.
Catask.
Yeah. This is worst case scenario for black. No piece to drop.
I was driving home from work today, and a thought entered my head, which was Oppelwezen, Janli, and Jasugi versus Catask. That was my idea in my head. Given how badly he's annihilated all of us three individually, I'm seeing if we combine the forces of 3x world champions, would we have a chance?
Right. Yeah.
I think you would lose on time every game because you are discussing Upper's crazy ideas.
Well, no, I would say I'd give the opening to Oppa, and if there's an attack, I'll give it to Jasugi, and if we have to defend, I'll take the board. And then we try not to get in each other's way. That would be the strategy.
Right. Yeah. Well, that reminds me. I was playing in my second Olympiad in 1982 in Lucerne, Switzerland, and it was the match United States Mongolia. And I had gone to the water bucket, get some water. And Lubash Kavala came up to me and he was shaking his head. And I said, "Is everything okay, Lubash?" And he said, "My opponent, they changed my opponent." I go, "I beg your pardon?" Said, "The guy I started with, he's not the same guy at the board." And I go, "Yes, that's right, Lubash. The Mongolian team has an opening specialist, a middle game specialist, an end game specialist, and then they have a guy who comes out and resigns." So the four of you would have to determine who would be the guy who would resign. After all of the great planning and logic. What is this? What's going on?
I'm impressed with
Okay.
Jasugi's play this game because he's made it look like his catask
He's
with the
breaking
white
through on
pieces.
G6. Yeah.
In fact, I think that's one of the best things you can do in a match is to beat your opponent with their own style.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
very hard to do.
Very nice move, by the way. I like that bishop to G3. Not only like defending a lot of the squares, but well, just like invading the dark squares.
He covers h5 with the bishop here.
That was cute.
I
But
like
the
the rook
bishop-
takes h6 and bishop
Bishop
takes
take-
e8 a little bit better,
Yeah.
but he's mating here now.
Here,
Almost.
somehow it's expected a pawn to be on f7 first before the rook dropped in on g8.
Do you play rook at h7, king takes, then take the queen? Or
Yeah, I was thinking about that as well. How do you defend?
how do you defend when the king's on h7? You can't cover the light squares. I think it's trivial though.
Rook to h7 check.
Yeah.
This is nice.
This is nice.
Really nice. Oh, it's like the rinse and repeat. You know, you've got a lot of pawns in your hand.
That's
All
also
right.
catask, by the way. He doesn't mate you. He just makes you resign.
Yeah.
So that's maybe why Jasugi played like this.
Gentlemen,
One more.
9.5. It's amazing how well your bounty worked out, Justin. Well done.
Yeah, well, there was a larger prize, 400 versus 200, but it seems $5 a game works better for Jasugi.
Hey, the players were gleeful about the $5.
Yeah, I got to play against the hustler Russian Paul in New York when I was there, and at the time I don't think I recognized his personality as well as I do now, but yeah, we probably sat down. We probably sat down and played $5 a game, and I think we played maybe something like 30 games, and it was seesaw and ended up breaking even.
Oh man,
so
hustlers hate that because you took 3 hours of his time. The opportunity costs were enormous.
Well, I was ahead by a fair stretch at one point.
Even worse.
Wow, what's this? Knight g8.
Blunder.
Did he forget his queen was on? Just d5 hangs.
Oh, what a way to finish the match.
Ah.
I'm
Okay.
gonna do a catask again, king h8, knight g8.
Oh, I think he might have pre-moved knight g8. That was probably it. Gentlemen, well, that was a very nice session. We saw, I think somehow the players at certain moments showed their best sides, their best game.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I was really hopeful Jasugi could claim some glory with a 10.5 to 9.5 win in the last leg, but not this way. He needed to leave his queen on d8 just for a move longer there.
Right.
But yeah, look, I want to thank all you five for joining, and it's probably been about 7.5 to 8 hours all together streaming this final. I'm also quite relieved that 6 commentators can actually fit inside a rectangle and not talk over each other the whole time. So thanks for your patience with each other as well.
I was going to say 6.5.
6.5, yes. 6.5.
6.5 commentators.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, we look forward to next year. Catask will be the defending champion. So I'm hopeful to put a post out, early January. We'll open up the Crazyhouse World Championship 2022 for people to join the bracket. I think we'll stick with the same format this year, same prize pool, 2,000. Really happy to see some tradition forming around here, and we just try to keep the quality of the tournament up, and we get the quality of the games. Lovely commentators to cover final. Lots to look forward to. So, yeah, open up to any other comments from you guys.
Yeah, well, gentlemen, first of all, from Holland, let me just wish you all and your families very, very happy holidays, as well as our viewers, listeners. Thank you all. It's been my pleasure to call the action alongside yourself. So thank you, and Justin, a big shout out to you for hosting, not just hosting, but drawing is all in. Herding cats as they are. You did it very,
Oh,
very
not at
well.
all.
So big shout out for you, Justin.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Much appreciated. Gneis, Firefly, we should arrange some good old bug house on freechess.org someday. Maybe
Sure.
Mugwort, we can partner up, do Aussie versus Sweden, something
I was
like
going to
that.
say, I know there's a lineage of Bughouse players in Sydney with the two kids, but we're going to have to wait a while before we can find some opponents. So hopefully, we normally only get to gather together when there's an overseas visitor. So we're always, hopeful for someone who sends us a message and says, "Oh, yeah, I'm dropping by. Let's organize something." It's always a lot of fun when we get together. It doesn't happen very often, unfortunately.
Now, having said that, are the borders open with Australia now?
It's hard to say, even with our own states versus international.
Nobody really knows from one week to another.
We have a federal government that makes the decisions for the country, and then you have a premier of each state which makes their decisions. And yeah, sometimes a border just gets closed. Like you hear of people like planning 3 or 4 holidays somewhere else in the country and getting blocked at the airport 3 or 4 times as well. And I understand in Europe there's some lockdowns coming into place now. So everybody's really worn out. There's a lot less patience in the street or in the shop or even in the hospital I work in. It's like people have just kind of had enough. So we've been patient. Our vaccination rate has increased because we were like very far behind the rest of the world. But now I think there's some opening up with living next to it, and it's very difficult to make decisions. I don't envy the people in leadership positions anywhere in the world at the moment. That's
Awkward. Well, gentlemen, once again, a pleasure meeting you all, and thank you so much for letting me be a part of the show. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're happy to have you.
I will tune out. And again, to our viewers, thank you so much for joining. And support Justin whenever he comes on. Let your friends know where you hang out. But good night, all.
All right. Okay.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. We'll see you all next time.
Bye,
Cheers.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.